Om. Yuhuntah pravishya mama vachamimam prasuptam sanjeevayatyakhilashaktiधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् यं गुरुं हि स्वयं सत्यः प्रज्ञा भक्तिविनीतयः दीप्तिश्चातिव्रता नित्यं तं गुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम् सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 paper okay 37 right
today is 37
so start from 32 यज्ञानं पतदुर्गमं सुनिशिता शस्त्रस्य धारा यथा शब्दस्पर्शमरूपमव्ययमजं नित्यं ध्रुवं चारसं निर्गन्धं यदनन्तमेत्य पुरुषः मृत्योर्मुखान्मुच्यते विद्याः सुप्तित आसु जागृतनराः तत्प्राप्तुमाचार्यिणः श्रोत्रादीन्द्रियसञ्चयं स भगवान् शब्दादिबाह्यार्थगम् चक्रे यत्तदसौ पुमान् बहिरिमान् भुङ्क्ते स्वकैरिन्द्रियैः धीरः कोऽपि यतेन्द्रियोऽनुभवति स्वं प्रत्यगात्मानमाप्तुं मोक्षमुशन्न धीरहृदयः कामी तु मृत्योर्वशः लोको येन समीक्षते ध्वनिरसस्पर्शांश्च दुःखं सुखं रूपं गन्धगुणं च जाग्रति तथा स्वप्ने सुषुप्तावपि अज्ञानं हृदयेन्द्रियाद्यविदितम् यस्यास्ति नो किञ्चन ज्ञात्वा स्यात्ममहेश्वरं मधुभुजं धीरो न शोचत्यमुम् अभ्यो यः प्रथमं महानुदभवत् सर्वेश्वराद् ब्रह्मणः भूतैः साकमिह प्रविश्य हृदयाकाशञ्च यस्तिष्ठति यः प्राणोदिति नामकोऽर्थकिलनात् यः सर्वदेवात्मकः सर्वात्मानममुं तमेति पुरुषः यो ब्रह्म जानाति सः योरण्योर्निहितोऽग्निरात्मनि महायोगैर्भृतो
गर्भवत्
नारीभिर्जठरेऽप्यहन्यहनियः स्तुत्यो बुधैः कर्मभिः जाग्रद्भिर्निराश्रयैः स्वहृदये यज्ञे च स ब्रह्म तत् भानोर्जन्मलयो यतो यतैमे Devāstadatyeti kaha. So in the previous class we completed the commentary of verse 36. Let us read 37. Yo brahmaditrinantadehanihitaha. Yo brahmaditrinantadehanihitaha. Yo brahmaditrinantadehanihitaha. Nanaghatasthabhravat. 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 Jivoyam nirupadhikamalasukhah. Jivoyam nirupadhikamalasukhah. Jivoyam nirupadhikamalasukhah. Jnanasvarupam brihat. Jnanasvarupam brihat. Jnanasvarupam brihat. Yo vidyātimirapraduṣitadriṣaha. Yo vidyātimirapraduṣitadriṣaha. Yo vidyātimirapraduṣitadriṣaha. Naneha pasyatyapi. Naneha pasyatyapi. Naneha pasyatyapi. Brahmanyesha samrutyumanchati punaha. Brahmanyesha samrutyumanchati punaha. Brahmanyesha samrutyumanchati punaha. Mrityorjaner janmacha. Mrityorjaner janmacha. Mrityorjaner janmacha. This verse 37 is basically the reduction of mantra 10. So he has devoted one exclusive verse for mantra 10. The mantra is Yadeveha tadamutra yadamutra tadanviha mrityos samrutyumapnoti yaiha naneva pashyati. So we will see the commentary of Bhagavad Pada a little later. But let us read this verse one more and then try to understand what is stated here. He says, Yo brahmadi trinanta deha nihitaha. Nihitaha means something which is residing inside. Residing inside means it is not tangible, but its presence is felt. Yo brahmadi trinanta deha nihitaha. So this is a standard phrase which you will find in many places in Advaita Vedanta texts. So brahmadi trinanta deha. Sthavaranta adhogatihi is another phrase. So there are various forms of beings which we see around us. Among the beings we can further classify as Jada and Chetana. Among the Chetana, so the highest form is described as Brahma. In fact, we have a phrase, no? Ya Brahmadi Pipilikanta Tanushu Prota Jagat Sakshini. So elsewhere, Pipilikanta is what is stated. So here, he uses this phrase Trinanta. So Pipilika, at least we know from our own experiences, has some Chetana. If you put your hand, it will move elsewhere and so on and so forth. But when it is a grass, you don't see. So Trinanta. But grass is something which has a Jivita, Utpadyate, Parinamate, Nasyati, all that we see. But when you touch, it doesn't react. So here, Brahmadi means the Chaitanya of the highest form. Trinanta, the Chaitanya, so where the reactions are hardly observed by you. Okay, so this is the highest to lowest. So Yog Brahmadi Trinanta Deha Nihitaha. So Dehaha is something which we see physically, but mere Deha does not function. So there is a Chaitanya which is behind to make the Deha function. So that is why he is using the phrase Deha Nihitaha. So the one which is the force behind the functioning of the Deha, whether it is the Deha of Brahma or it is the Deha of Trina. Yo Brahmadi Trinanta Deha Nihitaha Nana Ghatastha Bhravat. This is a beautiful simile. Nana Ghatastha Abhravat. So the point that he wants to convey here is, irrespective of the Deha, the Chaitanya is one and the same. And therefore, the example that has been chosen here is Nana Ghatastha Abhravat. So Abhra here refers to Akasha. So Nana Ghatastha Abhravat. So like the space in various parts. So from this simile, we understand that all these Dehas, Brahmadi Trinanta Deha, is like the pot. And the Chaitanya which drives, which makes this Deha function, is the Akasha Sthaniya. Okay? So Nana Ghatastha Bhravat Jivoyam. So the example here is, this Shastra is meant for us, the Jivas. Right? Shastra is not meant for Vriksha. Shastra is not meant for Mriga. So therefore, he always tries to retain this Jivo Hoyam. I am Jivaha. The Jiva is like Abhravat. So Jivaha, Ayan Jivaha, Saha Jivaha, Ayan Jivaha, Saha Jivaha. So we can think of several Jivas, but the several Jivas cannot be conceived of unless there are several Dehas. So therefore, this space, though it is one, the moment there is an Upadhi which is created, it becomes a different space. In fact, in our department, because of space scarcity, so they will suddenly divide one room into two rooms. Now it becomes two different spaces. So you cannot enter into that space, I cannot enter into this space. So this is two different spaces. So how did they come? One became two because of some partition. So similarly, Nana Ghatastha Bhravat Jivoyam. So this has to be very clearly understood. In fact, this has been very beautifully stated in the Advaita Prakarana of the Mandukya. Right at the beginning, he will say, what is that? Mandukya, we have Ghatak Atma Hyakashavat Jivaihi Ghatakashai Divoditaha Ghatadivaccha Sanghataihi Jatavetan Nidarshanam Ghatadishu Pralineshu Ghatakashadayo Yatha Akashe Sampraliyante Tadvajjiva Ihatmani. So this is how Mandukya Karika presents. The same thing has been presented. See, Atma hi Akashavat. Atma Hyakashavat. Jivaihi Ghatakashai Divoditaha. Ghatadivaccha Sanghataihi Jatavetan. Jatau means Utpattau. Utpattau etat nidarshanam. Jivotpattihi shruyate. Shrutau. And if you have to understand it, then this is the example. Even as the space is born with the pot, you don't really think that a space is generated. But the moment the pot comes into existence, a special space has been created. In that you can store whatever you want. And when the pot is broken, so you can easily understand that the space is not destroyed, but the space which was available for you to store is gone. The space available for you to store is gone. So this is how we need to understand. So what has happened is, when the Sharira is born, so you have an Upadhi which enables you to experience this Sukha Dukha. But when the Sharira is gone, so that Upadhi which enables you to have Sukha Dukha is gone. So this is how we need to understand. That is why they explain this. Atma hyakashavat jivaihi ghatakashe rivoditaha ghatadivaccha sanghataihi jatavetan nidarshanam. And similarly, ghatadishu pralineshu ghatakashadayo yatha akashe sampraliyante tadvajjivaha. So further, yathaikasmin ghatakashe rajodhumadibhiryute na sarve samprayujyante tadvajjiva sukhadipihi. This is another point that we need to understand. Though we speak of one, as long as there is upadhi, there is no sankramana of sukha dukha from one to the other. Okay? See, this is very simple. As long as the cylinder has some enclosed space, right? So that enclosed space is filled with some gas. Once the valve is open, so that comes out. But till the valve is there, it is only confined, right? So similarly, as long as the Sharira is there, so this Sukha Dukha is confined. So it cannot go to the other thing. So that is how we need to understand. So here he says, see, Yo brahmadi trinanta deha nihitaha nana ghatastha bhravat jivoyam. Then nirupadhikamala sukha jnana swarupam brihat. So what is the message that is being conveyed here? Ayam jivaha vastutaha nirupadhikaha. So that Chaitanya, once it is associated with Upadhi, it experiences as if. But on its own, so it is a Nirupadhika. Okay? Nirupadhikamalam. So once you say that there is no Upadhi, there is no question of any kind of mala. Nirupadhikamalam. Amalam means something which is Shuddha. So none of these samskaras. It is essentially these samskaras that make you view things differently. Right? The same thing viewed differently. What makes the person view differently? It is the samskara which has been generated in this fellow by various other actions that he has. So here, nirupadhika. Once you remove this upadhi, this becomes amala. So this becomes swachha. So amalam. Then sukhajnana swarupam. This can be very easily understood with the help of this water. See, the water as it comes from the space, that will be atyanta shuddha. Right? Once it reaches some upadhi, then it will pick up all kinds of substances which are with the upadhi, and it will get into the water. So similarly, nirupadhikaha amala. And then when it is amala, So I am Sukham, Jnanasvarupam. So this Jiva is basically Amala Sukha Jnanasvarupam Brihat. The word Brihat here refers to Brahman. Okay? So that Shabda stems from this. Therefore, he is referring it as Brihat. But then he further continues and says, Yo Vidya Timira Pradushita Drishaha. Avidya Timira Pradushita Drishaha. So we will see that in greater detail when we see the commentary. So Pradushita Drik. Pradushita Drik means his vision is blood. So vision is blood. Pradushita Drik, contaminated. Naneha pashyatyapi iha nana pashyati. So this nanatvam is something which has been generated through external influences. Even if you take the child when it is born, so it is we teach the child, right? So this is your father, this is your mother, this is yours, this is this, this is that, this is that. So till then, there is no samskara which is there. But it is something which we try to inject. This is how you have to view, this is how you have to. So all these are basically created by us. So here he says, Naneha pashyati api brahmanyesha samrutyumanchati punaha mrityorjaner janmacha. Once this ekatma buddhi is lost, then you get into the cycle of birth and death. So that is what is meant by janehe janmacha. Janihi is one word, one form. Okay. So janehe janma means from one birth to other birth you keep on moving. Okay, let us read the commentary. Atha pratyagatmanaha ekatvam brahmatvam cha vadan tat swarupam nirdishati yaha iti. Pratyagatmanaha ekatvam brahmatvam cha vadan. Ekatvam brahmatvam. So that is what we saw through the example. So yadyapi nanopadhibhihi naneva bhati akashaha athapi eka eva akashaha. So that is what is meant by ekatvam brahmatvam cha vadan. And as akasha is all pervasive, so too this atman is all pervasive. Okay? Vadan tat swarupam nirdishati. So he explains the true nature of the Atman. That is what he says. Yaha nana ghatastha abhravat. Nana ghatastha abhravat. Sometimes this abhram is used to refer to megha also. Abhram megho varivaha. Okay, so this is another usage. So we have to understand from the usage, okay, from the context. Yaha nana ghatastha abhravat. The space confined in various parts. Brahmadi trinanta deha nihitaha. Soyam jivaha. What is his form? Nirupadhikamala sukha jnana swarupam. So nirupadhika amala sukha jnana swarupam. So this is explained. So here I think this bold once again given can be removed. This is basically a vyakhyanam. Nirupadhikam. Okay. So nirupadhikam amalam sukham jnanam swarupam. So there is no need for having the bold in the script. So nirupadhikam atayeva amalam yat sukham anandarupam jnanam tat swarupam brihat. So this is basically the Taittiriya Shruti, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So this is what he is trying to say here. Brahmaiva bhavati. Then aupadhikaha eva atmabhedaha na swabhavikaha. So this is the essence of it. Atma-bhedaha yaha drishyate saha aupadhikaha. Aupadhikaha eva atma-bhedaha na svabhavikaha. Ekameva dvitiyam satchidananda lakshanam. So here also one has to give a break between the words. Satchidananda lakshanam brahmaiva jivaha ityarthaha. So there should be a break between the words. Okay. Brahmaiva, again space, jivaha space, ityarthaha. Atha Vedāntamuktāvalī nindati. How is this? Darishi, darshino, darshinaha. Prathama bahuvachan. Dvitiya bahuvachan. Dvitiya bahuvachan. Ramam nindati. Okay. Similarly, so atha Vedāntamuktāvalī nindati. Okay. If it is prathama bahuvachana, it will be nindanti. Darshinaha nindanti. So they, understand? Te nindanti. Tan nindati, te nindanti.
Vedādarshinaha nindiyante.
No, that is different. Vedādarshina, if you want to get the same meaning, I am saying, so suppose you are saying, so then you can say the Vakya will be meaningful if nindanti is there. It need not get the same meaning. Atha Vedādarshino nindati. Then he says, avidyatimira pradushita drishaha. Avidyatimira pradushita drishaha. So this has to be understood carefully, and therefore Ramaraya writes a little longer sentence. Even that sentence we may have to read twice, then only you will get the import. See, this timira has two meanings, the word. One is darkness, the other is a dosha in the eye. Okay. So this dosha, if it is there in the eye, then so you see one thing, but it will look like two things. Okay. So this is a dosha which happens in the eyesight. So here he is saying avidyaya timirena pradushita drisha buddhi chakshuriva. So you have to understand these words. See. So timirena chakshuriva, pradushita chakshuriva. Timirena pradushita chakshuriva. So because of this dosha, so when there is a defect in the eye, then so he has multiple visions of the same object. Okay. So similarly, avidyaya pradushita, when the buddhi is like that, so then this nanatva drishti is there. So avidyaya timirena pradushita drisha buddhi chakshuriva yasya. So avidyaya pradushita buddhi yasya. That is how we have to understand. Avidyaya pradushita buddhi yasya. Timirena pradushita chakshuhu yasya. So saha tathoktaha yaha iti. So that person is referred to here. Yo vidya timira pradushita drishaha. Asmin, see, iha, asmin, iha here means asmin advitiyepi. So asmin means this pratyakatva. So this, though it is associated with upadhi, so you should see it as upadhi rahita. Okay. So therefore brahmani nana advaitam pashyati chandraiveti bhavaha. This is how the standard example. Okay. Timira dosha drishtihi ekam chandram sadvitiyam pashyati. Okay. This is how the examples are explained. Chandraiveti bhavaha sahayesha mudhaha mrityoho punaha mrityum anchati. Anchati, anchigatam. So yati. janehe janmanaha punarjanma cha anchati samsarasi ityetat. Samsarati, this fellow gets into the samsara, into this chakra. Now I will take you to the commentary very quickly, Bhagavad Pada's commentary. So here Bhagavad Pada, this is a mantra which will be repeatedly quoted in various contexts if you read Advaita Shastra. Okay. Yadeveha tadamutra yadamutra tadanviha. The later part, mrutyos samrutyung gacchati yaiha naneva pashyati. Mrutyos samrutyum apnoti yaiha naneva pashyati. Okay. Now you see this mantra. Yat brahmadi sthavaranteshu. Oh, see, so Bhagavad Pada uses sthavaranta. Yat brahmadi sthavaranteshu vartamanam tattadupadhitva abrahmavat avabhasamanam samsari. Understand? Abrahmavat avabhasamanam means vastutaha brahmapi sanna abrahmavad avabhasate kutaha upadhitvat. Abrahmavati avabhasamanam samsari anyat parasmad brahmanaha iti mabhut kaschidashanka. So that it is different from. So since it is limited, it is obviously different from the description that one finds in Shruti. So Shruti describes as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Anandam Brahma. But this is not the case. So therefore he is saying Parasmad Brahmanaha Samsari Anyaha. See, Anyat Parasmad Brahmanaha iti Mabhut Kasyachit. May not anyone have this doubt. In order to eradicate that this individual is different from the Brahman which is described in the Shrutis, this mantra is introduced. Yadeveha karyakarana upadhi samanvitam samsara dharmavat. Yadeva iha karyakarana upadhi samanvitam. So this pratyakatma which is recognized by you as the locus of the notion of I. See, karya karana upadhi samanvitam. So it is associated with various karya karana. Okay. Samsara dharmavat. You undergo various pains and pleasures. Therefore, samsara dharmavat avabhasamanam. For whom? Avivekinam. Avivekinam yavam avabhasamanam tadeva swatmastham, that same entity in reality. What is it? Amutra means here you should not think that it is elsewhere placed in some location, in which case there will be a problem. Amutra means normally elsewhere. Elsewhere means Shastreshu. Understand? Amutra nitya vijnana ghana swabhavam. So Shastra describes this same entity. Okay. So normally ihamutra artha phalabhoga viragaha, when you say so amutra means elsewhere. We have to understand elsewhere, that is all. You should not think that it is some other loka, okay, like Switzerland, Hawaii. Okay. So amutra, elsewhere. So amutra here means, so this pratyagatma and shastreshu pratipadyamanam atmavastu. That is what is referred to as amutra nitya vijnana ghana swabhavam sarva samsara dharma varjitam brahma. Understand? So shastreshu you see the same atma najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva nabhitava nabhuyaha ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Amutra. But you don't feel that way. You understand? Shastreshu katham pratipadyate ayam atma. So that is what is described as Nitya Vijnana Ghana Swabhavam. Nitya Vijnana Ghana Swabhavam Sarva Samsara Dharma Varjitam. That is what is Najayate Mriyate. Sarva Samsara Dharma Varjitam Pratipadyate Yat Tat Tadeva. You understand? Yadeva Iha. Iha Asmin Sharire Karyakarana Sanghatena Saha Jayate Iva Mriyate Iva Cha Pratibhati. Okay. Saha Tathana Yadeveha Tadamutra. Then, normally when you want to impress upon a certain idea which is very crucial, then what you do is you reiterate that. Okay? This is same as that, that is same as this. Okay? So that is how it is repeating. Yaccha amutra amushmin atmanischitam tadanu iha tadeva iha karyakarana nama rupa upadhim anuvibhavyamanam. Vibhavyamanam means it is seen as if it is like this. So that same entity is seen as if it has a localized frame, it has sukha dukha and so on and so forth. Okay? Tatra evam sati means this being the case, tatra evam sati upadhi svabhava bheda drishti lakshanaya avidyaya mohitaha. This is a beautiful description. See, upadhi svabhava bheda drishti lakshanaya avidyaya mohitaha. So this, see, the one thing that we have to understand when we look into Vedanta Shastra, we have to repeatedly remind ourselves. So Jnanan Muktihi, so is what? Is the ultimate message that Vedanta gives, which we also see in our day-to-day understanding. Now, Jnanan Muktihi, when you say, so what is the Pratibandhaka? The Pratibandhaka is avidya. Right? So this avidya, once it is gone, I am muktaha bhavati. So now you see here, this avidya is described, see, by the phrase upadhi svabhava bheda drishti lakshanaya avidyaya. The form of avidya that we are trying to describe here is Bheda drishti lakshanaya. So, Bheda drishti lakshanaya avidyaya. Lakshana means here Swarupa. So, here Upadhi svabhava bheda drishti lakshanaya. See, there are two ways to see. Upadhehe ayam svabhavaha, that it presents differently. This is one form. The other form is Bheda Drishti. Okay? These two things, there are two forms in which one can understand this. Upadhehe ayam svabhavaha, that this will necessarily present it differently. Okay? So that is one form of vidya, and Bheda Drishti Lakshana is another form of vidya. So Upadhehe, Upadhi svabhava bheda drishti lakshanaya avidyaya mohitasan. This person is deluded because of this. Yaha iha brahmani. Brahmani anana bhute. You go in front of mirror. Okay. So if there is one mirror in the front and one mirror at the back, that is all. You will see infinite reflections of you. Right? What is it created? It is because of this. So as long as you are there, you will necessarily see that. There is no other choice. Okay? So similarly, he is saying, as long as this Bheda Drishti is there, then this Nanatva Drishti will be there. So that has to go, then the vision will get down. So that is what he is referring to. Mohitasan. yaiha brahmani ananabhute parasmat anyoham mattaha anyat param brahmedi naneva. See, that para is the one which is described in the Shruti. Understand? So that is different, I am different. Shruti is talking of something else. Parasmat anyoham mattaha anyat param brahma iti naneva bhinnamiva pashyati upalabhate saha mrityoho maranat mrityum maranam punah punah janana marana bhavamapnoti pratipadyate. Therefore, what is the import of this? So this has been nicely stated. The message is tasmat tatha na pashyet. Therefore, may you not have this kind of a bheda buddhi. Tasmat tatha na pashyet. What do you do then? Vijñānaika rasam nairantaryena akashavad paripurnam brahmaiva aham asmi iti pashyet iti vakyartha. This is very important. Vakyartha means, so there is this mantra which has two parts. Okay? So yadeveha tadamutra yadamutra tadadviha mrityosya mrityumapnoti yehananeva pashyati. So the samuha, this is separate, that is separate, it looks, right? So this vakyaika vakya means combining the two sentences. What is the import? So if one has to convey, then he will say ayam vakyartha, means the entire vakya together conveys this. Vijñānaika rasam. See, if you look at two separate vakyas, so yadeveha tadamutra yadamutra tadanviha is something. Whatever is here, it is there. Whatever is there, it is here. Then one who has nana buddhi saha nashyati. So immediately you don't get the import of it. So the import has been stated by Bhagavad Pada in this sentence. Asya vakyasya tatparyam idameva. That is what he is trying to bring. Vijñānaika rasam. This amutra shabda basically refers to the description in the Shruti. The Atman which is described in the Shruti is referred to by amutra. Okay? Vijñānaika rasam. That is how you get this. Shruti describes Vijñānamanandam Brahma. Okay? Vijñānaika rasam nairantaryena akashavat paripurnam. Right? So this is the description that you find in Shruti. Brahmaiva ahamasmi. Tadisham brahmaiva ahamasmi. Iti pashyet. Pashyet how? So because of this ninda, you understand that we should not do this. Then what is to be done is understood indirectly. Understand? So this is not the directly what you derive from the mantra. So therefore he is saying brahmaivahamasmi iti pashyet iti vakyartha. May you develop this kind of a vision. Okay? So that is the import of this. That is what is being stated here. Okay. We'll restart the next verse then. So this is what is stated in the mantra. The import of the mantra is, so Chidananda Rupoham is to be the mantra which is to be repeatedly chanted by you. Okay, thought over by you. Okay. Now, how does this happen? So that is what is stated in the next verse. See, Acharyagama samskritena manasa.
Acharyagama samskritena manasa. Acharyagama samskritena manasa.
Evaptavyam brihat. Evaptavyam brihat. Evaptavyam brihat. Dvaitam nastyapi kinchidatra hitataha. Dvaitam nastyapi kinchidatra hi tataha.
Dvaitam nastyapi kinchidatra hi tataha.
Bhedam na pashyen manak. Bhedam na pashyen manak. Bhedam na pashyen manak. Dehantar hridayabjagena manasa. Dehantar hridayabjagena manasa. Dehantar hridayabjagena manasa. Yungushthamatrah puman. Yungushthamatrah puman. Yungushthamatrah puman. Aste sarvamaheshwarastamamukam. Aste sarvamaheshwarastamamukam. Aste sarvamaheshwarastamamukam. Brahmaiva vijño bhayaha. Brahmaitya, sorry. Brahmaitya vijño bhayaha. Brahmaitya vijño bhayaha. Brahmaitya vijño bhayaha. So this verse takes care of two successive mantras. The two successive mantras are Manasaivedamaptavyam Nehananasti kinchana Mrityos samrityam gacchati Yaihananeva pashyati Angushthamatrah purushaha Madhya atmani tishtati Ishanam bhuta bhavyasya Natato vijugupsate. These are the two mantras. These are 11 and 12. So here you do not see the mantra mentioning Manasaivedam aptavyam nehananasti kinchana. This nehananasti kinchana is very oft quoted statement you will find in the Vedantic literature. Okay, nehananasti kinchana. And this nehananasti kinchana, how does this idea get into your mind? So for that he is saying Acharyagama samskritena manasa. So samskritena manasa means a refined mind. Okay. We should develop a certain refined mind. And this refined mind evolves in the same entity. It is evolution that happens, right? So earlier it had all kinds of Bheda Buddhis, and slowly you drop, and it becomes further refined. So here Acharya Agama Samskritena Manasa, you can actually think of three different ways in which you can understand this phrase. So Acharyena Samskritam Manaha, Agamena Samskritam Manaha. Right? The mind is refined by repeatedly listening to what the teacher says. You don't read any scriptures. So that is a certain way of refining. So you keep observing the Acharya and thereby you try to refine. You don't even need to look at the scriptures, right? So there are various people you look at, you observe them and you learn lot of values from them, right? So this is Acharyena Samskritam Manaha. In fact, the very word Acharya is Achinoti cha Shastrani Achare Sthapayatyapi Swayam Acharate Yasmat Tasmad Acharya Uchyate. So Acharate means he practices. So as he practices, we look at and thereby we learn, and that is a certain samskara which happens to this buddhi. So Acharyena Samskritam Manaha. Okay. Agamena Samskritam Manaha. So you repeatedly contemplate on what has been stated in the Shrutis. So thereby a certain refinement happens. So Acharyena Samskritam Manaha. So this is one way of seeing. The other way of looking at it is Acharyopadishta Agamena. Understand? So Acharyat Praptaha Yaha Agamaha. So you don't try to understand by yourself. So when he tries to explain this, it becomes all the more clear to you. See, Acharyena Prapta Agamena. See, Acharyat Praptaha Yaha Agamaha Tena Samskritam Manaha is another way of seeing, and this has been repeatedly stated through various discussions that this Agama is not something which has to be so learnt by you on your own, because there will be a lot of confusion. Therefore, Acharyat Prapta Agama Samskritena Manasa. The third way is, see, Acharya Rupena Sthitam. This Agama itself is like Acharya. You understand? So this is the guiding factor. Acharya is the one who guides you. Right? Acharya Rupena Sthitaha Yaha Agamaha, as a leading thing. So Tena Samskritena Manasa. So the actual thing is, so you have to take both. Acharyena Samskritam Manaha, Agamena Samskritam Manaha. In fact, all the three meanings will nicely fit. So whichever way you take, each of them has its own significance. Okay? Acharyagama Samskritena. And there the punch lies in the use of the word eva. So without this, this is not going to happen. Okay? Manasaiva. So etadrisham manaha eva etat sathaitum shaknoti natu anyan manaha. Okay? Acharyagama samskritena manasaivaaptavyam etat. This is how the nature of Atman has to be understood by you. There is no other way. So in order to say that there is no other way, this word eva has been inserted. Okay. So the Shruti simply says Manasai Vedamaptavyam. So in fact, Manasai Vedamaptavyam will be apparently contradictory to elsewhere where it states that Naiva Vachana Manasa Praptum Shakyo Na Chakshusha. This is another Shruti which says Naiva Vachana Manasa Praptum Shakyaha. So this cannot be attained by mind. This cannot be reached by Indriyas. Suppose you say. Then this is obviously in contradiction with that. So there you have to understand Asamskritena Manasa Na Drashtum Shakyate. Here you have to supply Acharyagama Samskritena Manasa Drashtum Shakyate. This is how we have to understand this. Okay? Acharyagama Samskritena. So it is like this. So my father, once somebody was asking, how do you say? He was just spontaneously saying. Somebody was asking in the class, I remember many years back. Somebody was asking. So you say that Manasai Vedam Aptavyam. Elsewhere you said. Okay. So then he said, true. You take the key. So if you want to open the lock, you have to do this way. If you have to lock the door, you have to rotate it this way. Okay? It is the same key. You understand? Okay? So same manaha. So if you refine it this way, this is what it will do. So if you let it move around in all directions as it likes, so then that is what it will do. So it will finish you. So this will make you get evolved as a better human being. Okay, so that is what is the idea. Acharyagama Samskritena Manasaiva Aptavyametat Brihat. The Brihat which was described earlier. See, This is how it has to be. Okay. Etad brihat dvaitam nastyapi kinchidatra. Kinchidapi. Okay. Dvaitam nastyapi kinchidatra hi tataha bhedam na pashyen manak. Manakapi bhedam na pashyet. Ishadapi bhedam na pashyet. In fact, if at all Shruti has to teach, this is the only thing that the Shruti has to teach. Bheda drishti, anyway, you know. What is there to teach? Bheda drishti is nisargataha prapta drishti. Okay? By creation, we see multiplicity. If at all something has to be taught to us, it is only to see the unity in this multiplicity that has to be taught. That is why Bhagavad Pada elsewhere he says, Nacha upadesharham dvaitam jatamatra prani buddhi gamyatvat. Jatamatra prani buddhi gamyatvat. You don't even need a refined intellect as the human being possesses, a higher order intellect that the human being possesses. Any lower order intellect which is possessed by any Jantu, that has the vision of Dvaita. Therefore, if at all something has to be learnt, something has to be taught by the Shruti, it is only this, Nacha upadesharham dvaitam jatamatra prani buddhi gamyatvat. It's a very beautiful statement. I think somewhere in Vedāntamuktāvalī also it appears. He says, see, dvaitam nastyapi kinchidatra hi tataha. Therefore, bhedam na pashyen manak. Therefore, may you not see bheda. Managapi bhedam na pashyet. He says, dehantar hridayabjagena manasa. So the latter half of the verse is basically the content of the next mantra. The next mantra says, Angushtamatra purushaha madhya atmani tishtati ishano bhuta bhavyasya natato vijugupsate. So, natato vijugupsate. So, that he is just paraphrasing by one word here, abhayaha, towards the end of the verse. Dehantar hridayabjagena manasa yungushthamatrah puman aste sarvamaheshwaraha tamamukam brahmaiva brahmetya vijño bhayaha. So, yetya here is to be understood as Nyatva. So, though yeti means gacchati, so that is how we understand. But gatyarthakasya jnanarthakatvam, so that is how it is. I think I'll stop here, so we will look at the commentary in the next class. Om Sarve Sukhinas Santu, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhavet. Om